One thing about Fon Johnson is this. He was a great and gentle man.
Ken Leslie was a good coach, but he also had a quality of caring for the athlete and bringing him to a higher level of play.
Russ Cravens was the man when I got here as a freshman. I used to watch Russ every day and try to emulate. He had a great reverse pivot move coming across the key and going back into the hoop, and I just wanted to be like Russ Cravens.
Coach Cunningham, first of all, is a legend in San Diego County. He is a coach. But when I say coach, I mean the full meaning of the word coach, and a mentor and a friend.
Cliff Ashford wasn't a very athletic-looking individual, but he was one of the strongest, meanest players, very tenacious and aggressive offensive and defensive player who gave you everything he had for 40 minutes of a game.
Bernie Bickerstaff came to USD with next-level skills. He had mad basketball skills. He could run and jump out of the gym. Tremendous player. And our senior year, when we beat San Diego State, in I think it was double overtime, Bernie had a great game and was the reason that we won that game and put us on the map here in San Diego.
Rick Cabrera loved having the basketball in his hands, had an ambition. He told me one time that he wanted to be the first Latino ball player in the NBA.
Gus Mcgee, we found Gus. I was down at Municipal Gym and I saw this 6'8" guy down shooting hook shots, left, right, and I decided to go down and talk to him. And he said he was on his way to Arizona. He was going to Arizona to play. And I told him, hey, you should at least go up to the University of San Diego and talk to Coach Woolpert, and I think you would like it.
Well, Gus Mcgee was is in fact the best all-time rebounder in USD basketball history. He's a member of our Athletic Hall of Fame, and he and I went at it almost every day after practice for many years after he graduated from USD. I still consider him one of my best buddies.
Robert Pickett Smith. He was a very strong player. I mean, he was one of those people that I thought I could move out, but he would not move even during the time I touched him. But he was a great shooter for his strength, and he was very serious about the game.
Stan Washington's probably the best player, one of the best players ever to come out of the University of San Diego. He was my teammate. We came in as freshmen together. Bernie recruited us in 1970. In a game against Sonoma State in the playoffs, he fell and crashed his head to the floor, put 20 stitches in his head, wrapped him up in this fro, came back out and played. Toughness.
We had to carpool down to Muni Gym, set up our practice, then when we finished, we carpooled back to the school. It took time, and obviously it wasn't the best environment for us.
We may possibly have been the only college team that played only away games. We practiced at Balboa Gym, Mission Bay High School, Point Loma High School, a couple of guys' backyards.
That was unbelievable to step in that gym. It was your gym. You know, people had to come to you and play, and it's like, this is our home, you know. And that was impressive to have a gym that belonged to you. It said USD Toreros.
And so the USF Dons, with 54 straight basketball victories, are on the threshold of the greatest sports story of the century as they go for number 55 and a second consecutive NCAA championship. Coach Phil Woolpert has already been named Coach of the Year for the second year in a row. Bill Russell, K.C. Jones, and Hal Perry were named on many All-American teams. And the Dons, for the second straight year, are crowned kings of the National Collegiate Basketball domain.
The transformation happened the minute that Phil Woolpert signed on as the basketball coach and athletic director at University of San Diego. Now we have the two-time National Coach of the Year running the program at USD. We started getting recruits from all over the country. We started beating teams like Pepperdine, San Diego State, Santa Clara. We went from 6 wins in his first season to, at that point in time, the most in school history, 15 in his 3rd year there. Things were happening at USD because Phil Wolpert was there.
And what he said was, every day I expect you to give 100%. And if you don't, you're going to be sitting right over here by me.
Terrific as a coach. I mean, that's unspoken when you talk about a guy who won 60 straight games. His coaching, as far as I'm concerned, was there with Coach Wooden and Coach Newell.
I played 4 years of basketball at USF, very privileged to be there in the heyday of USF basketball. Coach Wolpert had accepted the job as athletic director and basketball coach at USD, and I was the first guy he called to come and work for him, and since San Diego was my hometown, it didn't take any urging at all. I accepted immediately.
I originally went out to play for Coach Kloppenberg at Cal Western. I decided to go up to USD and play with the guys who were playing up there. I said, wow, I think I'd like to play, with these guys. And then I talked to Coach Wolpert, and I had played AAU basketball with John Cunningham. So I decided, hey, I think I'd rather go to the University of San Diego. And aesthetically, it is probably one of the most beautiful colleges you could be around.
Coach Wolpert became interested in Bernie, so he asked me to go down and play in the games at Muni Gym and find out what kind of a player Bernie was. And I came back with glowing reports that Bernie could play the game. Bernie was a kind of a globetrotter-ish kind of player, razzmatazz, and he was a crowd pleaser and everything else. But when he got to USD, Coach Wolpert was more of a simplistic, get the job done thing, forget all the showmanship and just get the job done. And so Bernie was the 6th man on a 6-man guard outfit, and he went up to see Coach Wolpert and told Coach Wolpert he was going to transfer. And Coach Wolpert looked at him and said, Bernie, can I give you a ride to the airport?
I tried the old trick that I think I would go home. I'm going to give this up. So he said, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but if that's something you need to do, okay, we'll see you. So I decided, well, I think, Coach, I better stay. It was a great turning point for me, and I owe a lot to that man today. And I think the University of San Diego owes a lot to Coach Wolpert.
Coach Wolpert actually, in my opinion, changed the face of college basketball. He had 3 African-American players starting on his team on a regular basis, and often 4 players when he substituted. This was in the 1950s. This just didn't happen in the 1950s.
We were playing basketball during my junior year, and we were playing at Western Washington State. After we won the game on Saturday night, we went to the nearest restaurant on Sunday morning to have breakfast prior to busing down to Seattle to fly back home. For some reason, and I think it was very apparent during that time, they refused to serve Coach Wolpert, Coach Cunningham, Coach Bickerstaff, as well as myself. They refused to give us service. And when Coach Wolpert found out why they would not serve us, he went ballistic, and he raised total hell, would be a way to put it. And he threatened not to pay for any of the team if they refused to serve us. And it was that time when I saw how impacted he had been by that decision and by that experience, that he was someone that could be trusted and someone who had a genuine concern about people.
In all the accolades that he got at USF for the national championships and the 60-game win streak, I think Phil Wolpert did more for the University of San Diego than he ever did at USF.
He was steadfast in the things that he believed in. They wanted you to get your education, so they brought me on as a graduate assistant, and they wanted me to coach. And then the next year, he fought for me to become an assistant coach.
Coach Rupert chose to retire from coaching the day before the beginning of basketball practice, and Bernie would be taking over as the head coach. And that was shocking to a lot of people. Bernie at that time, I think, was the youngest head coach in college basketball, and probably one of the very few black coaches at that time. So it was a period of adjustment for a lot of people.
And he told me, you know, that I'm stepping down, and we want you to be, you know, the head coach. It was just that simple. So I'm shocked. You know, I had no idea that this was happening.
As a young coach, you know, Bernie was always one of those guys who loved the game. He was what you can describe as a gym rat. So for him to have that mentality, taking that into coaching, he expected all of his players to have that same love for the game.
Look at the succession of coaches that have come to USD after Bernie Bickerstaff. I look at the job that Bernie has done in the NBA since he left USD, 40 years worth. He's one of the most respected men in the NBA.
I think when you look around the NBA, the number of people, and people tell us all the time, they say, well, from such a small school, the number of people that are in the National Basketball Association, and it was about the closeness and the networking, you know, which is important, where they say, hey, bring one along. Just changed my whole perspective, you know, of life, being there and being coached by, you know, Coach Rupert and Coach Cunningham. For them to have the confidence, not only for them, but for the University of San Diego, period, to have the confidence to hire me as an untested, you know, coach at 25 as a head coach, I will be, you know, eternally grateful.
The love for the university. I have a special attraction to the university. It has been very important in my life. And after playing there for 4 years, going to grad school there for 2, being part of the coaching staff for almost 22 years, I tell you, it's like a second home to me.
They gave a young man Catholic education. They let him play basketball, and after I was through with that, they helped me get a teaching credential and couldn't ask for anything more, and I'm very thankful that they did.
And I'm so appreciative of the fact that I have a degree in biology and I got out in 4 years. I'm happy to be a product and a graduate at the University of San Diego, as well as on my master's and my degree in education.
It's kind of a thrill to be a part of the first team. I am particularly proud that the school has turned out to be what it is, a very good place to go.